Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we'll be doing another video about but related to a deck that I did a lot for timeline was a pretty while back. So to refresh you, we're going to look at that deck first because it's very similar to how this one works. Let's get to the deck. I have way too many. I have to reorganize these, get rid of some. This one. The main deck is similar to this deck, and I'll have this deck because I feel like a lot of people should see this one because it's very interesting. To this deck, it's like the Golden Castle of Stromberg type strategy, but you have way more control with this newer deck I came up with. But it's not the Stromberg deck because obviously it's very different, very old actually. So now we can get to this one. Okay. So at this one, the main key is to get out the big Orochi kit. This big Orochi. Dog, this thing is strong. If you know how to control the board the whole time. Cause you can make massive numbers with this deck. Because you can like special summon him from your hand by banishing 8 of your cards. And you'll wonder why this deck is so small. It's because the faster you can get him out, the better chance you have the materials to play him from your hand, normal summon him from your hand during that same turn. And he gets 400 attack and defense for every banished card. And if everything works out, Orochi can also like summon himself from like banish 8 more cards from your deck to special summon himself on your opponent's turn or your turn from the graveyard as well. The only way to stop this thing from being special summoned is banishing it. This is kind of cool, but there is one like you get maybe one more extra turn with this deck because you basically exhaust your resources just as fast as a Golden Castle of Stromberg deck. And before I get to the I know this is a bit longer, but before I get to the description of the cards in it, this is your recycler. I only pulled it off once, but it's a recycler if you can meet the conditions when he hit the graveyard. All right. With that being said, let's get to the actual thing. So we have level adjustment because we're going to be adjusting some levels in this deck to get out our extra deck monsters if we decide to do it. First we have Orochi, and by the way, it's a Gizmek deck, so I'm just going to say that the word after Gizmek, which is Orochi. Orochi, Macmi, Amai. We have 3 Grin. We only had one of the other 2. Now that we done with all the SRs and URs in this deck. Everything, most of this stuff is normals. Then we have the boar. We have the frog, which is the one you're gonna use to pit Orochi at the top of your deck when normal or special summoned. This one can revive. This one right here can revive. I think, reviving cards from the graveyard when you banish it. And then this one is the bunny. This one right here, lets you special summon after normal summoning it. And it does some, and they all have a graveyard effect, but I don't want to be too long with the description of the deck, though. I want to let the gameplay talk. Then we have Gizmek Legend. Very important cards to the Gizmeks. Mirror Force. This is where we get into the. You can use any amount, any trap cards based on how you play, but I prefer to play trap cards that impact my opponent a lot, so I can so I have more control of the board. I have a lot of URs and SRs. That's it for my trap card choice. 1 Mirror Force, 1 Dimensional Prison, 3 Draining Mirror Force, and 2 Rainbow Life. Just because since they all have a graveyard effect, I might as well have something that can discard them. Specifically, I want to discard him if I have some Gizmeks in the graveyard. And to be clear, all these ones that say same defense, same attack do not work on him because he is question mark attack and defense. So there's not really a set amount on him. So all of their effects only work on each other, but they don't work on him. He's just a card you play to get advantage off on all the banished cards you have. These extra deck cards don't really matter. You're gonna throw them away anyway for his effect of banishing 3 extra deck cards to destroy 1 monster on the field. It's kind of more to your opponent's favor type of skill, but it's very useful if you time it right. But the ones I have is Queen. Basically, we have the Degens. It's just Degens, really. Queen Dragon. We have Xyz Dragon. Symphony Degen. We have Gear Giant X, which is for the machine aspect of this deck. If you choose to play it, you most likely won't. String Degen, we have Sea Dragon to get back banished cards because it's a banish only, mostly a banish level deck. And then you have Tim Tempo, the percussion Degen, bass Degen, and we have key Degen. With that being said, this was a way longer than I normally do to describe it, but I had to, so you were up to date on what was going on. Normally I wait for the end of the video to do that part, but this time I didn't. Okay. First we're gonna do with when I failed to use this deck to my 2 wins. So enjoy the show. In conclusion, this deck is bad against stall decks, put subpar against aggressive decks, but very, very, very good against balanced decks. That's not good at. That's not too good at defense or offense. But I say this, I prefer it as a farming deck, even though it takes a lot. It uses a lot of URs and SRs, and you would rather use it in competitive at that point. I say this is a good farming deck. That's just me though, because I was still gonna use it in competitive, but it's really, really hard to see a justification of using it too much in competitive, knowing it has a very low win rate against most competitive decks going on ground nowadays. So with that being said, hope you like the video, like, comment, or subscribe, all that stuff. And have yourselves a wonderful day. Peace.